Hi, I'm Mindy Peters, the Solutions Manager for SPI, and this video is going to be just a little bit different. A member of the SPI Pro community asked a question about Circle, and this member is going through the process of setting up their own Circle community and wanted to know about some of the settings that we're using within our Circle community. And so I thought, why don't I just walk you through the entire settings section of Circle so that I can show you how we've configured our settings, and I'll talk about some of the decisions that we made when we decided to flip some switches one way or the other, and maybe that'll be helpful to you as you're going through the process of setting up your own Circle community. Now, a caveat, we are on Circle's highest tiered plan, the enterprise level plan. So we have access to all of the features. And depending on the plan that you're on, you may not have access to everything that I show you today. And I'll try to call out things that I know for sure are enterprise level only, just so that you don't frustrate yourself trying to make something work. But also, Circle is rapidly innovating, and so as you watch this video, some things may have changed. And so if there are significant updates in the future, I'll be sure to call those out in a future video. Okay, let's just start from the top. And so to get to this section, you are going to click on the little settings wheel inside of Circle, and we'll just walk through each menu on the left-hand column here, and I'll show you what we're doing. So first of all, on general, this is exactly what you would expect. This is where you are going to name your community. And you can see that we have a custom domain set up, and a custom domain is available to all levels. So you can click on this little green text here, and this will walk you through the process of setting up your custom domain. And you can see it's one of the menu items in the left-hand sidebar, so we were going to get here eventually anyway. The next thing you'll see here is the switch to make your community private if you want. And both of our Circle communities are private, meaning you need to be added by us to join the community. Now, there are a lot of successful Circle communities that are not private or that have tiered access. So the base community is private, but then they have spaces or space groups that are only available upon invitation, and that invitation might include a pricing step. So it's up to you to decide what is going to work for you. The MakerPad community is a great example of a community that has general free access and then a tiered level above that. So here's the free MakerPad community. You can see I'm not even logged in, so some of the community is visible even if you're not logged in. Whereas the SPI Pro community, the SPI Academy communities, those are ours. If you're not logged in, you cannot see any of the content. Let me show you what that looks like. If you attempt to access the SPI Pro community when you're not logged in, because we have that switch flipped to make it a private space, this is what you'll see. Now let me talk about the custom member sign up link. When you do have a private community, this is a link that you can configure on the login page if somebody isn't logged in, to tell them where to go to get access. So returning to pro.smartpassiveincome again, here I'm not signed in, and see right here we have not a member. Click here to learn more and apply to join, and that's a link that we can customize. If I click on that, it's going to take you to our SPI Pro sales page. Moving on down, next is where you can upload all of your branding, set your custom colors, set your logo. The icon is what shows up in the community switcher on the left-hand side here. I think it's also what sets the favicon, so up here in the menu bar. Here's where you set the reply to email. And so Circle's going to kick out any number of notification emails from your community, automated digests, invitation emails, things like that. If somebody hits reply to one of those emails, whatever you put in this box here is where those emails, those replies will go. In the default section, enable the community switcher. So that is this bar on the left hand here. So you can see I'm signed into two different Circle communities right now, and I can just click to switch between them. And so the next setting here is just if somebody is using the iOS browser, should we let them know, hey, there's an app that you could use instead. If you don't want that notification, you can turn that off here. Enable browser notifications is when you get that little pop-up box that says like allow this website to push notifications to you. You'll see that in Chrome or in Firefox. You can turn that on or off here. Now really, I'm not entirely sure, but I think that this setting is a little bit pointless if you have a private community, because the community is not indexed by search engines. So I don't think that this is actually doing anything for us because we have a private community. But if you had a public community, here is where you would decide whether or not you want search engines to be able to index your users' personal information. I probably would turn that off just because privacy is an ongoing concern for a lot of folks, especially in the European Union. Now, this next setting we haven't used, and I think again that's because our entire community is private. But in the instance of a community where at least it's semi-public, parts of it are public and then maybe other parts of it are closed, I think what this setting is doing is it lets you put in a call to action for somebody who's trying to access private content that they don't have access to. If I flip this switch on, you'll see Circle's suggested title is become a member, and it gives you a sign up box for that. So I think that's what this is doing, but I'm not 100% sure. Finally, this is a place where you could just set global spaces that anybody who joins your community has access to all of the spaces that you would choose here. We're not using this setting because we're adding people in a different mechanism, but this would be great for just as you're setting up your community and just sort of like getting things started. This could be just a really good, easy way to automatically add people into the sections that you want them into. After you make any changes, be sure to hit Save Changes before you navigate away from this page. Moving on down to onboarding. So onboarding is the initial experience that your community members are going to have, and it's really important. This is the way that you get people when they're sort of at the peak of their excitement. They've just signed up. This is where you guide them to the things that you want them to know first. It's how you welcome them. It's how you help create that sense of community. And the onboarding process oftentimes can be sort of the key between taking an interested person and turning them into a really dedicated member. So let me show you what we've set up for our onboarding sequence. And so at SPI, we actually have a twofold onboarding process. We are using Circle's onboarding process, but then we're also supplementing that with an email sequence that we've set up in Convertkit that starts sending out one day after they join our community. And so on day one, all of the emails are coming from the Circle system, but then after that, they're coming from our email service provider. And that's an ongoing process. So I think the way we have it configured is for the first several days, we have one email a day going out. And then after that point, the sequence slows down a little bit. I'll pull that up in just a moment. So you can see here, you have the ability to set two separate onboarding emails based on whether or not they already have a Circle account or they do not have a Circle account. And that's really nice for somebody who already has a Circle account. They don't maybe need quite as much information. They're familiar with the platform. They know what to do. Whereas somebody who's brand new to Circle, and Circle is a newer platform, they might need a little bit more in terms of instruction. So here's a look at our email for people who don't have a Circle account. And here's a look at the email that we have for people who already have a Circle account. The last box on this page gives you the opportunity to set a pop-up when people log into their account for the very first time. And so we've chosen to embed a video in that pop-up. And this video is sort of like, if you do nothing else from our onboarding steps, here's everything that you need to know just to sort of get through the platform and get the most out of your SPI Pro membership. Here's the rest of the copy in that pop-up. The final setting that we are not using is to send a customized email out of Circle after they've finished creating their account. We're not using that because instead we're sending out our sequence from Convertkit, and I'll show you that now. I'm not going to go through this completely, but here is the onboarding sequence that we use when somebody joins our SPI Pro community. And you can see we've got quite a lot of emails. We have several emails going out for the first few days. And then it waits for a Friday. And the reason behind that is because every Friday we present the opportunity to our community to share a Friday win, something that went well this week. And then after that point, the pace changes to every 2 days, and then the last one is 30 days after the sequence has finished. It's kind of a follow-up. It's an email really intended for somebody who's been in the community for a while now. And the copy that we're using in these emails, sort of the intention of these emails, is each email after the very first one, and I guess I was wrong when I said before we wait a day. We don't. We send that email immediately after you sign up, is to walk you through just like one single aspect of the community. Here's something within the community that we want you to know about. And so in that way, we're trying not to be too overwhelming, but we also want people to know about all the little cool things that they might not find on their own. The next section here is custom domain, and we already looked at that. When you want to set up your custom domain, reach out to Circle customer support and they'll walk you through that process. The next section is code snippets, and this is where you can put in some custom CSS. And this is not available to the basic plan. This is available to the second and third tiered plans. But if you had some very specific styling that you wanted to do and you are an experienced developer, you know what you're doing, you have access to this. Okay, member tags. Now this is where things can get really fun in terms of customizing your community and really creating a fun atmosphere where you sort of help people self-identify and share the things that they're really good at. We've got a whole bunch of different custom tags and we're using them in different ways. So you're seeing several tags here that have COTM, and that stands for Challenge of the Month. Every month in our community, we run a challenge, and when a member completes that challenge, they can go and fill out a type form saying, I completed the challenge. Basically, they're just putting in their email address. And then we have a Zap set up through Zapier that then automatically adds that month's tag to their profile. And it's just a sort of way of saying like, I did this. Let me show you the settings for those. So you click Edit. With each tag, you have a variety of settings you can use, and which one you use depends on sort of how you want that tag to display on the profile. For Challenge of the Month tags, they're kind of less important tags. They don't need to be as visible, and so I'll show you sort of what this looks like on the front end. But first, you fill in a name. You can choose an icon if you want. We love the little emojis. You can give it a color if you need to. And then you have the option here to show the tag or hide the tag. And then under visibility, you can fine tune when and where that tag is going to show up. So for this one, this is sort of a less important tag. So the only place that we're really showing off this tag is on a member's profile page. It doesn't need to show up next to the member's name when they make a new post. It doesn't need to show up in the member directory. We have so many of these that it can get really cluttery. So we just show it on the profile page. Let me show you what the profile page looks like. So here's my profile page, and you can see some of the tags have both the little icon and text, but then other tags like this one, this is a Challenge of the Month, all that we see is the icon, and you can't see the text until you hover over it. Now let me show you these tag types because we've made these ones a little more visible. So I'm back in member tags here, and all the way at the bottom, the very first tag we made, Team SPI. And so if you look back here, we see Team SPI, we see the image and the text. Let's look at the configuration for that one. Hit edit. And here in visibility, we're showing this one everywhere. We're having it show up on posts. We're having it show up on the member card, kind of all the places where you might see my name. That tag is going to be right next to it. And instead of choosing icon with tooltip, so that was what this is, an icon with a tooltip, we have label selected. The last thing you have the ability to edit on an individual tag is the members that that tag is applied to. And this is an easy place to come. If you have a tag and you want to quickly add several people to that tag, you can do that right here. You also have the ability to apply tags via a Zapier integration if you want to. That's a really great way to tag a whole lot of people at once. But again, that requires a separate platform tool, that being Zapier. Moving on down to the weekly digest. Now this is something that we experimented with for a while and we have chosen not to use for this community, but we are using it for the SPI Academy. And so I'll show you that community in just a moment. If you want to turn this on, what happens here is every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific, an email is going to fire out to all of your members, and it is sort of a collection of the things that have happened in the community during the week. Let me show you what it looks like. So here we have that setting enabled. I'm over in the SPI Academy community, and you have the ability to customize the introduction. And so typically what our team does is every week, say by Wednesday at the latest, a team member will come in here and write the introduction for that week's digest email. If you forget to update for a week, the same thing's gonna go out the next week. So don't forget to update that copy. After the introduction section, here are the things that Circle automatically sends out, and you can fine tune that a bit. So if you want to, you could send out that week's most popular posts or that week's most popular comments. You just flip the switch for those. So we are sending those out. Notice that the setting is hide popular posts, hide popular comments. So to send it, you would keep this switch off. Now we have chosen to hide the stats and hide new members. We just don't feel that those are maybe relevant for the digest. In particular, with new members on a week of heavy enrollment, that list could be quite long. Now back in the SPI Pro community, the reason we have chosen not to send this out is that we are manually configuring our own digest email that we send out. We're sending out 2 a week. We're sending one out on Monday, and the one on Monday is the list of here are all of the events happening in the community this week, and here are the registration links, because we do a lot of like live Zoom meetups within the community. And then on Fridays, we send out what our community manager, Jillian, calls the Friday email. And that is sort of Jillian's own personal hand-picked, hey, these are the things that happen in the community that I thought were really cool and I want you to know about. And for this community in particular, we just sort of liked a hand-curated system better. But of course, that takes a lot of time. And so, you know, if you're a smaller operation, if you have fewer people on your team working, the automated digest could be a really great way to sort of keep your community top of mind without having to do a whole lot of extra work. Moving on down to the home section. Okay, this is how you configure what people see when they are a returning member and they're logging in. This is a newer feature of Circles, this home tab, and we really liked it. And so let me show you what that looks like. And specifically what I'm going to call out for you here is the trending post threshold. We've set that to 5. I'll show you where that is, except it will be blurred out just to protect our users' privacy, but you can at least see where it ends up. And then you have the ability to change the sort order here. So between latest, popular, the post with the most likes, things like that. We've chosen latest, so basically the freshest content. And we don't have any public spaces, so this isn't relevant. Let me show you here on the home tab. So that trending posts, you see, I know the content here is blurred out, but at least you can see where that box is. And so there's 5 posts listed there because we set the number to 5. And then we can see the most recent post is what sort of shows up above the fold. And that actually turns out to be something that I published. And then see this Welcome Back Pro banner. You have the ability to set that in here. It's a little farther down here. And this is where you can put that in. And so we're actually just about to go on vacation. I'm recording this right before I leave for vacation. And so we've got a message here that we want to be sure shows up for anybody who logs in, just so they sort of know what's up. And you can see that that message is right here at the very top. We have not given people the ability to dismiss that banner, but you do have that. If you flip the switch, then they'll be able to see that, and then they can just check a box and make it go away. I jumped over this section right here, logged in defaults. This is what people see when they log in. And so we've set the home page to be where we want anybody who is returning. I skipped over the logged in default section, and this just lets you provide a different experience to new members versus, regular returning members. A new member here, so we've chosen to put them in the Start Here section. That's basically where all the new member information is. Whereas for people who've been in the community for a long time, we're sending them to that home page. For logged out defaults, this is what you can set for those people. Now, this isn't relevant to us because we're a private community. So if you're logged out, you can't see anything. But if you're a public community, you'll want to configure this section. And finally, here we have the meta tags. Now, this, again, because it's a private community, is not relevant to us. This is SEO. This is search stuff. So if your community is public, do not skip over this section. This is where you can put in kind of all of the relevant search information. You give the title that should show up in search. You give a description for the home page. And sort of fill in all of that stuff here, and also especially set an image that will show up with that. Just click on the What is Open Graph, and that'll help you decide what information you want to put in this section. The embed section is really exciting, so exciting that I've already made a different video about this topic. And so if you look at the Teachable SSO with Circle video, and that's linked below, you will be able to learn a little bit more about how to use these features. But this lets you embed your Circle community or parts of your Circle community into different websites. And so in that video, I showed you how to put the community widget into Teachable, into your Teachable course. And so in that video, I showed you how to put the community widget into your Teachable course curriculum. It's pretty cool. Go watch it, and don't let Teachable limit your imagination. You can use this in a variety of different websites. You could use it on WordPress. You could use it in any platform that allows you to embed code like this. The moderation section allows you to put in some rules around when posts need approval before they become public. Let's click on the settings icon. And when this comes into play is when posts are flagged. Let me show you how one would flag a post. So here I am on a post that our community manager, Jillian, posted, and I'm going to report it. I would click the ... here, and this is available basically on any post except you can't report yourself. And one of the options here is going to be report post. And when that is done, that post is going to show up, that flag is going to show up here in the moderation section. So it's going to show up in your moderation inbox as being somebody reported this post as inappropriate. You'll have the ability to approve the post or reject it. In the settings menu here, this is where you can configure if somebody gets reported multiple times, what is the threshold before you need to approve everything that they publish before it can go live? So in this case, we say basically, if a member has been reported twice and we have rejected that, at that point, we are going to flag all of their posts. You also have the ability here to just flip the switch, which says anytime we've rejected somebody's post from that point forward, everything of theirs has to go through moderation. You can adjust these settings. I think in SPI Pro, we have it set for 2. In the Academy, we have it set for 3. It's pretty much the same. If you run a tight ship, you'll want to set that number a little bit lower. If your community is a little more permissive, you might want to set that number a little bit higher. Now, single sign-on. This is where things get really cool, but also far more complicated. And so I've done a separate video on setting up single sign-on using Teachable as the platform for sign-on. That's the platform we use in the SPI Academy. For SPI Pro, we're actually using MemberStack for our single sign-on. Go back and watch that video if you're really interested in single sign-on. I go into it far more deeply than I will here. This is to say just a couple of things. The number of platforms for which you can use single sign-on is going to change depending on which pricing level you're at with Circle. So single sign-on is really powerful, especially when you want to use a different platform for processing your payments. Now, you could just set up any payment processor you use and then use Zapier to pass that information on to Circle. And so you can use Zapier to basically manage when a person has access, when they don't. That can work really well, and that's actually what we did initially. It can be a little bit more brittle if your Zaps fail for a particular reason. You know, it might take you a little while to notice, that sort of thing. We've chosen to use single sign-on, and so we use MemberStack to process all of our members' payments. And when a member pays, single sign-on basically says if their account is active, then they can use their MemberStack login to log in to this community. So again, I'll show you what that looks like. When someone goes to sign in, they can sign in with their MemberStack profile, and their MemberStack profile is only active when they are an active paid member. And so in that way, it makes it really easy. So go back and watch that video if you need to set up single sign-on. We're nearing the end here. Messaging is really simple. You have the ability to turn on and off direct messaging. So that's just messaging from one member to another in a private setting. And also, Circle is in the process of rolling out group messaging. And so you might not see this yet in your community. We were proud to be the first community to have group messaging enabled, but it's coming very soon if you don't have it yet. And this lets multiple people have private messages as a group. And so we've really loved having this because we have a lot of mastermind groups. So these are groups of like 5 to 8 people who meet on a regular basis. And now that group messaging is available, they can keep all of their conversations right in Circle. It's really exciting. Finally, in the billing section, this is where you can upgrade or downgrade your account. Now, finally, these last few things here under the account section, let me click on that. These are the things that are specific to you. So this is no longer your company's profile. This is you, the person logged in. This is your individual profile. And this is where you can fill out your own personal profile, decide whether or not your email is visible, just fill out everything on your card. And then this is where you can turn on and off direct messaging for yourself. And so with our team, the members of our CX team, they're the people who are in the community every single day. They all have direct messaging turned on. But I am not in the community every single day, and so I have turned off direct messaging just because I don't want someone to ask a question and then wait for several days for me to log in and then see their question. Instead, I want them to go through our CX team, just so that they get their answers faster. In the notifications section, this is where you customize what kind of email notifications and app notifications you're going to get. And so you can do a lot of customization here. And finally, under API, this is where you can create a token. So specifically, this is how you would connect your Zapier account into Circle. And I'm sure there are plenty of other platforms where you might want to do an API connection. Zapier is just the one that I've used. So that was a very, very long walkthrough, and you probably only needed a really specific section in there, but I hope that it helped answer any questions you might have had, and also just let you know sort of how we've chosen to use the community. And I'm sure things will change over time. As they change, we'll be sure to publish more videos. Now, I've talked a lot about the SPI Pro community in this process. If you are an entrepreneur with an online business and you are looking to create a sense of community, if you're looking for coworkers, basically, people that you can commiserate with and ask questions of, I encourage you to apply to join the community. Just go to smartpassiveincome.com/pro. The link will be below as well.